Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 22, Grandfather Care. Chapter 22, Grandfather Care. 7 days later. Ships arrived in the port completely packed with men and women, wearing vacation outfits, craftsmen, construction workers, managers, electricians, plumbers, logistics managers, escorts, and many more different types of careers and jobs, all in ships coming to this unknown island in the middle of nowhere. They came searching for a place where they could do their crafts and jobs properly without being harmed from the chaos outside. They were promised free housing and food during the duration of the construction, as well as good pay, not as good as they were being paid before, but at least they would get paid instead of hiding in their homes doing nothing but eat, sleep, and shit like some poop generator. They accepted the invitation because they did not know what the future was holding for them, and the world leaders refusing to share intel made it even worse. As they thought there were only two reasons why: one, the leaders did not dare to do so, since the information was too horrible for them, and if it gets leaked the chaos might turn even uglier; two, the news was too good and the leaders made a pact to hold it as much as possible until they benefit from it, then release it to the public. Both of those reasons had no benefits for their future, so it's better to just take a step forward and brave the unknown than to hide like cowards. Felix watched the people he hired disembark one by one, holding their suitcases with them. All of those people either did not have families, or they did, and just didn't care leaving them behind, since the first condition of coming here was to arrive alone, as there was not enough space to hold everyone, plus their family members. Slowly, the ship started to get empty. Everyone who disembarked stood in the dock, making two groups, one for men and one for women. Felix's eyes suddenly brightened a bit as he glimpsed at two beautiful ladies, lining up last. Auntie really sent some talents here to even be able to hire those two beautiful escorts. The men would work harder to earn money just to get a night with them. What a good plan to force them to do their best. Soon everyone landed on the port and lined up neatly. Jack stood in front of the men, while Leela in front of the women. All right, I will call the jobs you were hired to do one by one. If you hear your job, come line behind me, understood? Jack instructed them sternly while holding a list under his armpit. Leela told the women to do the same. Then they began calling job after job, and people got behind them obediently, making different lines each for a specific work. After they finished the list, those two women were the only ones left. Leela instructed, state your jobs and why you did not respond. One of the girls lowered her head and said shyly, we were hired to work as interns in the hotel. Madame Mary told us to follow young Master Felix to assist him in his work. Leela immediately froze, as she realized that Madame Mary sent those two for Felix to play with. Her expression soon morphed to jealousy, but she quickly hid it. Oh, is that so? You are still young and need training first, so you will follow me to learn the basics. After I see that you guys earned some experience, I will send you personally to young master to assist him. Am I clear? Both young ladies bowed their heads lightly. Yes, madam, thank you for your care. Felix watched this situation unfolds with a relieved expression. He was glad that Leela intervened, as he really had no time to play around. This period was crucial for the hotel and his future. He needed to be at his best state, and those beautiful ladies would cause his teenage hormones to annoy him to death by their presence. Good, take your time training them. I don't want burdens. If you think that they are not ready, don't send them. He waved his hand and left Jack and Leela to handle those workers' rooms in the hotel. He was not worried about the lack of space, as the hotel had 400 rooms and 24 suites. Each room had 2 beds and a comfortable couch. That meant, each room could hold 3 people, which was not bad, considering the total manpower that arrived was just 1,020. The hotel could handle their housing, but it would be the last one to be remodeled since they couldn't start constructing the hotel while everyone was living in it. So it was much better to start with the other buildings. The moment they finish them, they could send those workers home. This will relieve some of the burdens on the housing as well as their daily consumption. Next morning 9 a.m. Felix decided to eat breakfast this time in his room since it got pretty wild inside the cafeteria with all of those people flooding in to eat. He called Jack with his phone. "I want you to round up all the craftsmen who deal with making chairs and tables and all the furniture that requires wood and ask them to come to my suite. I need to discuss their jobs with them. They will be in your suite, in 30 minutes, young master." "Good, stay in contact." He hanged up. 25 minutes later. Felix was sitting on a couch in the living room, while over 30 wood craftsmen gathered around him in a circle. "Listen up, I have bought a huge quantity of all types of expensive wood, and I want you all to turn them into furniture that will make this hotel smells like wood. You hear me? But first you need to draw me a set of furniture that will be used in each room, then draw me a set that will be on the suites. The ones that please me will be used as models for you all to work on. The creators of those two sets will live in a suite for the period of constructions." He tempted them with a smile. "As you wish, young master, we will start working on our creations as soon as possible. Be at ease." One of the craftsmen bowed his head respectfully. "Good, you have a month period to provide me with your final creations, and you are allowed to use precious materials in your design, just don't overdo it." He clapped his hand twice and stood up. "Now go ahead and start brainstorming." Afterward, the craftsmen left one by one, until the suite door got closed by James. Felix wore a practice outfit and headed towards the gym to lift some weights. It's been a long time since he did so. 2 hours later. Felix took a cold shower, after returning from the gym. After a while, he finished and stepped outside of the bathroom. Immediately, he noticed his phone ringing. Ring ring ring. Who is calling me at this period? It's probably Aunt to ask about the 2 young ladies she sent. Yet he was completely wrong, as he saw the one who was calling him was surprisingly his grandfather. "Hello Grandpa, what's the occasion of your call?" he chuckled as he accepted the call. "Little bastard, I am glad you are still alive. Can't you call to check on me from time to time?" "Gramps, I don't have the time to accompany you. I am working my ass off to revive the hotel and win the approval of the board. Your grandson is doing his best here," Felix said with an annoyed tone. He, working hard. It's been over 8 years since I heard you say those 2 words seriously, and it was when I give you the mission to pee on Benjamin's shoes." He chuckled. "I still remember your cute solemn face as you promised that you will do your best." Furious and embarrassed, Felix responded baldly, "Did you call me to humiliate me or what? If so, I will hang up now." "Little Felix, just relax. I brought you some news that will give you a slight advantage over your cousins later." Robert's playful tone quickly changed to a soft whisper. "I was sent as the family representative 2 days prior to attend a meeting made by all of the current business families around the globe, and I heard some shocking news there. It seems a president from a country has leaked all of the information that happened in the United Nations meeting to a business family he owned a favor to." He paused for a long while until Felix thought that the connection had been cut off, but a couple of seconds later, he continued on at a faster pace. "They were the Diagoz's family from South America, and they were the ones who sent invitations to all of us to attend the meeting, so they can sell that information." Felix felt his heart skip a beat, as he realized his actions began to alter this timeline, because he had never heard of such thing happening before, or, it did happen but he had no one to relay the information to him, since his grandfather, the last person who backed him in the family, died during the chaos, but because he saved him, he managed to get it firsthand. "I see. Are you even allowed to share this classified knowledge with me, Grandpa? Are you stupid? What can they do to me? I am only sharing it to my grandson, nothing major," Robert scolded him. "Now shut up and listen carefully. First of all, I heard that we humans can gain abilities using the bloodline of beasts, and the family is going to hold assessment 6 months from now to help you juniors use those powers efficiently. But the rank of the beasts which will be given is going to be decided by the amount of work you did to revive your project," he suggested sternly. "So you should spend your entire budget on the hotel as fast as possible to show at least that you are taking the tradition seriously. This is my advice for you. Now use it, kid, as all your cousins have no idea about this knowledge." He soon stopped whispering and said in irritation, "That's all I can share without being punished heavily for breaking the family rules." "All right, Grandpa, even though I understood absolutely nothing for what you just said, I will follow your advice and spend all my budget on the hotel. That's a talent I was born with." Felix laughed out loud, trying to act dumb. "You rascal, the only thing you do well is waste resources, but this time I allow it. Use everything to make the hotel shinier, to improve your chances of being favored a little bit by the board. I need to go, I am being called for a meeting by son." Without waiting for Felix to reply, Robert hung up. He must be really rushed. Felix stared at the black screen of the phone and smiled happily. He did not care about the information shared, since he already knew about everything beforehand. He smiled because this showed how much his grandfather cared for him, as the family punishment waiting for his grandfather, for sharing such a classified secret, was the confiscation of all assets, as well as serve 6 months imprisoned in his home. A punishment inescapable for anyone, not even an elder. If he got caught though. Chapter 23, Everything is Ready. Chapter 23, Everything is Ready. 4 days later. The construction materials fully arrived yesterday. This meant that everything was on the island, except for the construction equipment as well as vehicles for transportation. However, this would not delay the construction any further, as Madame Mary was going to completely drop acting discreetly and use her logistics business company to its full potential and send everything as fast as possible. She already informed Felix that it would take merely 7 days to finish shipping them. The only thing Felix was worried about was the family disqualifying him from the test after they find out that he used his mother's contacts to avoid paying the heavy prices of transportation. Even if they wanted to make an exception for him and accept Madame Mary's assistance, would his cousins allow it? Not in a lifetime. Felix already bullied them until he became their trauma, so how could they miss this opportunity to make it difficult for him? Without a doubt, they would complain to the family board that they were being biased to Felix, and keep whining that it was not fair. Felix could already imagine Kenny fake tears as he hugged the leg of an elder, making a scene to everyone. He stopped thinking for a second and spitted in disgust, as his cousin Kenny's image resurfaced in his mind. Fuck, I should not have tainted my mind with his face. Now I can't remove his disgusting fake smile from my mind for the whole day. I should probably just fast today. Out of sight, out of mind, he sighed. He fiddled with his phone up the hill, while eyeing the crowded hotel, resembling a hive of ants. I can safely assume that the construction and remodeling of the 4 projects will officially begin 15 to 20 days later. That wasn't too bad, as the chaos would still be running amok in the outside world, and when the workers see it, they would appreciate the opportunity of being away from it. But in the case of the construction delaying for over a month or more, it would create a huge problem, since everyone would feel cheated when the information about the Supremacy Games Alliance gets released for the public. After they see that humans could get as powerful as the heroes they grew up watching, or the UVR that allows everyone to get what they desired with 100% simulation, they would honestly feel like they were imprisoned away from civilization. At that point, the entire plan would fall apart when over 1,000 people start protesting to send them back. If that happened, Felix could only give up on the public wishes, even though he had a solid contract. Simply because he couldn't afford to contain their protest with his few bodyguards, but most importantly, he would rather terminate their contract than let them create an average hotel, due to lack of motivation. However, Felix still had to install those large screens that he bought to let them watch the games that were going to be streamed from the UVR all around the globe. This would at least quench some of their misery in those 2 years they were going to spend on the island. In the first place, the only reason those workers were here was to avoid chaos, but if they knew beforehand that it would end only in 2 months, they would have never bothered coming to this shithole, no matter what price Felix had offered. Days went by quickly, as Leela and Jack took care of everything smoothly after the arrival of those talents who had experience in either logistics or security. Right now, they were more like supervisors, while their subordinates took care of the shipments, as well as human resources efficiently. Leela thought to herself, as she watched the last boat unload the equipment, Finally, everything is here now, we just need the engineer designs and we can start the construction directly. She then took her phone and called her crush. Young master, everything is here, we are ready to begin. Good, start with the residential area right now, I have just received the design, I have already approved of it and can be studied and applied now, call me when it begins, I want to watch the process, he replied. As you wish, young master Felix, I was. Before she continued speaking, she only heard peep peep sounds. Afterward she put her phone in her pocket and smacked the back neck of her subordinate who was drinking his coffee peacefully, watching the boat sail away. What are you still doing here? The boat is already gone, it's not like your wife in it to watch it leave with that expression. Go to work right now, we got approval to start construction on the residential area, she yelled with a flushed face. The poor dude could only massage his red neck, to ease the pain. He didn't dare to complain about the slap. Yes, right now Madam Leela, be at ease, everyone is extremely motivated to start working. Alright, scram now, call me when you guys are about to begin, young master, want to observe. I will do so, don't worry. He then escaped swiftly from Leela, who was clearly upset and just wanted to release her anger on somebody. Why doesn't he show me a little bit of care? Aren't I doing my best here assisting him without complaint? At least give me some credit, and not hang up on me like that. Her lips quivered, as tears threatened to drop, yet she held it in and kicked every small rock in front of her, while walking back towards the hotel. Vexed, Felix eyed the black screen of his phone. To actually run out of juice in the middle of a conversation, he rubbed his eyebrows and entered his suite. He knew that he must explain to Leela what happened, so she won't misunderstand him. He didn't want her to think of him as a rude kid. After all, she was extremely vital to his island project. He planned to leave it in her hands after he gets summoned by the family to test his elements in the upcoming assessment. He only trusts her to perfectly keep everything in order in his absence. I will give her a quick call later. He left his phone charging and went to the bedroom to change while thinking of the consequences of showing off to the family and his cousins. His grandfather called yesterday and informed him that he went a little bit too far with his budget wasting, since even the elders noticed his huge activities over the past month. This meant, they would probably send their inspection team to look around, or just call a servant to give the full details of the events that transpired, since the servants belonged to the family and not Felix. He believed they would do both, firstly scout what happened from a servant, and when they hear the shocking information they would send an inspection team to clarify the details from him. This was exactly what Felix wanted for the family to get astonished by his bold foresight when he took advantage of the chaos to reap some benefits and used them properly for the hotel revival. After they see what he had done, his position in the family will recover from a thug to a seedling worth nurturing to be sent to represent them. The only variable in this plan were his cousins. He could easily deal with Olivia since she was a sweet flower who could be manipulated to his side. But for types like Noah and Kenny, it's going to be impossible, since one was like ice without emotions, who shows them only to his little sister. Meanwhile, Kenny could backstab one with sincere smile. Felix was disgusted before, by this traitorous behavior of his. I need to find some way to bribe them to not trouble me when the family sees I broke the rules. That was the only method Felix found that could stop them from making a fuss. Otherwise, if he let them act as they please, the Board of Elders would truly find it difficult to make an exception for him even if they wanted to. Since the rules of the family cannot be broken in one way or another, hell, even his grandfather who brought the family to be classified as a business empire could be punished. Don't even mention Felix. Chapter 24, The Sympathy Card. Chapter 24, The Sympathy Card. Felix walked around the living room with his chin resting under his hand. He kept thinking of ways to bribe his cousins successfully and have them join his side. The easiest way was to promise them some shares from the stocks he would obtain from the family when the hotel was revived successfully. However, this option was unacceptable to him. He didn't work his ass off to hand all the profits to them, not to mention they would make sure to rip him off, even if he tried to do so. He sat down as he started to feel dizzy from walking around the couch. Think, Felix, think there must be some weakness I can take advantage of to pressure and blackmail them. I need to dig deep within my fuzzy memories about this period, and I might find something useful. After a while, he suddenly fist-bumped his palm and stood up with a joyful expression. "Found it, Kenny, you bastard. I should have known that your traitorous character did not act up only at that time, but way before." He grinned widely. He. "With this, I am confident I will turn you into my lapdog, but first, I need to obtain solid evidence." Indeed, without having evidence, threatening Kenny would only get him to bow down and help him convince the other cousins not to give him a hard time, since he owns quite a few favors with them. As for Noah, that siscon, it was even easier to bribe him. Felix needs to please his little sister with a gift and ask her to speak some good words about him. Noah never refused a request from his little sister. "All right, this is the plan, for now, to deal with my cousin's interference. However, I still need to deal with the inspection team that will arrive later. He must prepare a plausible reason for how he took advantage of the chaos. After all, his cousins were scared shitless to make a move. Meanwhile, the thug of the family, who only knew how to waste money and laze around, had such foresight that allowed him to reap plenty of benefits during the chaos. Nonetheless, Felix was not worried about their interrogation at all. He already had the best shield for their accusations. 3 days later, Felix was standing in front of a tent, with 2 others behind him, a man and a woman. "You guys came just in time. My underling just informed me yesterday that they are going to start cleaning the area to make it fit for building an apartment complex." He smiled at the inspectors who arrived suddenly just 10 minutes ago and added, "It's for the employees who will get hired later after the official opening of the Sky Pearl Island to the public." "I see, Mr. Felix, you really astonished us when we heard the things you accomplished from the servants' mouths. You managed to pull off this huge remodeling under the eyes of the family. Although our understatement of your capabilities was the reason, it is still a good achievement." The dark-haired man complimented Felix with a smile. "True, I honestly don't know if he was acting like an unproductive thug in the family before, so that he can focus on the family tradition without being in the spotlight, thus managing to revive his business without his cousin's interference, who will definitely harm his operations if they found out about it. But now it is quite too late." I assume the inspector woman shared her own opinion on how Felix played everyone. "From what we heard from the servants, you already have everything prepared, and you just gave the green light to start the construction. Now they truly can't do anything to stop you." The inspector man supported her claim. "Seniors, you are truly giving me too much credit. There was no major plan, as you mentioned, since I never acted like a thug before." Felix shook his head and said, "That was just a kid in pain, using his actions to express his hidden trauma. But sadly, everyone started to call me a rogue, thug, and unproductive, lazy bum, just because I played some pranks on my cousins, and my grades in school fallen a little bit. The family is a really heartless place to be. That's why I decided to choose this island, which is in the middle of nowhere, so that I can be as far as possible from their despise and getting constantly looked down." The woman's expression softened a bit as she realized that what she said was quite far-fetched. After all, who can spend years being looked down upon by everyone just for one moment of glory? Indeed, the family tradition was quite important for everyone's future, but to use your childhood for it, no kid on the planet would be able to think so or do so. "Well, I quite believe you a little bit, but how can you explain being able to have such foresight and invest your entire budget on a gamble that may turn out right or can just flat out ruin you and your future?" Even though her expression softened, that didn't mean she would stop doing her job, so she began her grilling to expose any underhanded methods Felix used to have such a great achievement. "Everyone knows that you missed all your classes in the family special school. You did not learn how to manage a business, economics, or how to invest properly. You learned nothing of such knowledge, but here you are on an island that was given a death sentence by everyone, trying to revive it using only a $30 million budget. So please explain yourself properly without lying, otherwise, everything you did here will be investigated so we can have a clear image of how you did it." The woman instructed Felix strictly to scare him into admitting if he played any tricks to cheat. Saddened, Felix lowered his head with watery eyes and said, Even now, when I did my best to honor the family tradition and help them obtain an asset that can propel them even further than their rivals, I am still getting doubted over my capabilities. You said how I did so? Well, it is simple. Would a prodigy need to learn common people's knowledge to perform better than them? No, a genius needs no such thing. He only needs some basic information and can use it to make miracles, and this is what sets a genius apart from the common people. His slumped shoulders were no more, as he puffed out his chest and began listing all of his close family talents. My grandfather was a business monster who dominated all of his rivals and made our family one of the top worldwide. My father brought the family a massive amount of wealth using his senses that only a few people in the entire world possess. His investments were all based on his senses, not his information or experience, and those senses never failed him before. My mother was one of the most charismatic women on the planet. Anyone in her presence would feel the urge to follow her leadership. She turned tens of five-star hotels and restaurants into everyone's number one pick. He stared at their stiff eyes and sighed dejectedly. I have the blood and genes of all three of them, but I am still doubted because of my past actions that were only a cry for help, nothing more or less. None of you had the thought that maybe I inherited some of their talents and used them to revive this massive undertaking. You only judged me based on my childish actions and figured that I played tricks to be able to do something which none of you can do. Well, guess what? I am a genius who inherited both my grandfather and parents' talents. He didn't avoid having eye contact with them, as he extended 3 fingers in their faces and began listing how he used those talents to remodel the island. My father's investment senses alerted me that there is a profit to make when I was watching the chaos on the TV. My grandfather's business talent allowed me to create a complete plan to revive this hotel and turn it into one of the best ones there is, using only a little information I searched from the internet and analyzing the extraterrestrial transmission. And finally, my mother's talent helped me convince and charm the servants into taking my side and helping me finish this mission successfully, without reporting the events that transpired here to you guys so my cousins won't hinder me. I used those talents properly and took advantage of the economic crash that happened during the chaos. While my cousins feared the future, I was thinking of the present and using it to my advantage. He clutched his hand into a fist and shrugged his shoulders. The only thing that you guys might find, if you searched for any tricks I used, is my auntie assistance of transporting those resources here safely. Even though I didn't use my budget to do so, I told her to invest in the economic crash just like me, as payment. It depends if you thought of it as me cheating or me treading on a gray line to help the family gain an asset that they can't refuse. Without waiting for them to digest his bullshit excuse, he entered the tent, leaving them standing outside with stunned expression. They truly didn't expect such a reason. Chapter 25, Rewards and Punishments. Chapter 25, Rewards and Punishments. Felix sat down on a chair in the tent with a hidden smirk while eyeing the entrance. He was certain that he would pass the inspection safely. After that flawless excuse he gave them, he might even gain some advantages when the family realizes that he was a business prodigy worth nurturing. But that meant jack shit to him, since he just wanted to show them that he was good enough to obtain a rare rank beast during the assessment. After that, he would give the family the hotel to manage while having Leela and Jack supervise everything. Like this, he would wash his hands from the island while also earning billions of dollars each year. But what he truly wanted was to obtain a good relationship with the elites of the world. He then took his phone and started playing League of Legends Wild Rift with enjoyment. Outside of the tent, the inspectors were in a heated argument over Felix's explanation of truthfulness. I can't believe what he said. Honestly, just think about his actions when he was a kid. He constantly bullied his cousins, who just wanted to learn in peace. Then when he got bored or beaten up, he fools outside with his retarded friends who only know how to fuck around and bring mess for their families. The male inspector quickly added after seeing that she was about to interrupt him, now you are telling me that this kid had magically found that he had all of his family members' talents and then used them somehow to create a plan that made the impossible possible? I can't believe it. Something is missing, I tell you, something he is hiding from us. We need to find out about it, and everything will be clear to us. He crossed his hands and stared at the entrance of the tent with clear distrust. The glasses lady stomped her leg and replied with a hint of sympathy for Felix. This is exactly what he said. No matter what he does now or in the future, everyone in the family will keep judging him due to his past. Who knows, maybe 1 year alone in an isolated island away from the toxicity of the family, might have awakened his hidden talents, which were buried deep within, without anyone's intention to dig them out, since he was just a useless thug in the eyes of the family. But now that he self-awakened them and learned how to use them properly, so he can earn his honor and redeem his misconduct in his past, you still doubt him and not believe him. She poked his forehead while lecturing him on how their jobs are supposed to be. It is our job to inspect the juniors of the family in case they cheated or played tricks, but it is also our job to help them realize that cheating is not taking them anywhere. Furious, she increased her poking speed until the man began to feel throbbing pain on his forehead. But here you are trying your best to bring that poor lad more problems and issues, even though he only wanted to fix his broken reputation instead of doing your job and give him some compliments over the great work he did. You are trying to look for an excuse not to face the reality that people truly change for the better, just because you are too lazy to change your revelation of his character. From your mind to his current good character. She kept barraging him without stopping, forcing him to lower his head and not interrupt her rage. But I will not allow your crooked judgment to make more troubles for him anymore. He already suffered enough. We are returning to the family headquarters now to report what he said, and they will decide if he is a good seedling or not. Now move. She kicked his ass with her heel to push him forward away from the tent. The poor inspector could only clutch his ass and walk ahead of her, not daring to disobey her. He never saw his partner rage at him like this, and truthfully he never wanted to see it again. Felix had no idea about their decision and didn't bother trying to figure it out. He was confident in his excuse. If they believed him, then it was all good, but if they didn't, it wouldn't matter much, since everything he said was the closest thing to the truth. Because the real truth was that he returned from the future and had knowledge about everything. If he said that, they might beat him up and take him to the headquarters for interrogation. So he never bothered what their next action was and just intentionally fed to his heart content in a league-ranked game while reading his teammates' curses with enjoyment. Evening 17:30. In America, Boston, an enormous skyscraper was surrounded by trees of other similar buildings, but not one of them could reach half the size of this establishment. At the peak story of it, a round table was in the middle of the floor that allows more than 30 people to sit around it. It was currently filled with only 4 elders, who were listening with a focus to the inspector's report over the situation in Sky Pearl Island. I see. It seems that Robert truly did not get scammed and received a prodigy child, but the miserable circumstances of his parents passing away and his grandfather's busy schedule forced that lad to take the wrong step in his path, thus making his talents buried, without us knowing about it. A white-haired man that had not a single wrinkle on his face sighed with sympathy over the fate of Felix. But now it is all good, as long as he managed to change his thuggish character. We will take care of everything for him. A business genius like him is truly too hard to find nowadays. A middle-aged woman with a ponytail and wearing thin glasses nodded her head. Indeed, he truly shocked us to death when we found out that he spent only $20 million to obtain more than 1,000 chests of precious materials, construction materials, equipment, and vehicles. He even alerted his Aunt Mary about his plan, allowing her to invest more than $400 million. She truly will make a killing when she sells everything slowly after the leaders release the information to the public, a bald old man said with an envious tone. Baldy Albert, how dare you to envy others when your net worth is close to $2 billion? Your cheapskate character always manages to surprise me. His greed for money truly knows no bound. Last time I found a business opportunity that will allow me to earn some easy millions, but it was a waste of time, so I decided to hand it to my subordinate to enjoy. However, this bastard heard about it from somewhere and used it to his own advantage without shame. Fuck, he would probably jump out of building for $1. Irritated, the white-haired elder rubbed his eyebrows after retelling such an unpleasant memory. What do you guys know? This is how rich people at the top keep their positions secure. Every dollar is important, no matter if it is just $1 bill or $1 billion. You will never understand where I am coming from, So change the subject to young Felix. I want to hear your sentence if his use of merry transportation ships is allowed or not. Albert replied indifferently to his shaming. Well, in my opinion, he did nothing wrong or went out of line. We forbid juniors from the use of any free foreign assistance, whether giving money or just some knowledge. But Felix did not get his aunt's help for free. He traded it with information to allow his aunt to earn billions of dollars over the upcoming years. His information had exceeded whatever help he obtained from his aunt. The middle-aged woman reasoned calmly. She pushed her glasses upward and laid out her verdict. So my final judgment is that he did nothing wrong but did something worth applauding for, because this is what we want from our future family leaders to be able to do. Agreed, he did well, and we will reward him for it later. On the other hand, the other juniors were truly a disappointment. All of them were cowering in fear and not seeing the big picture or having the guts to leave their nest and see what can they profit from the chaos. They failed as businessmen and should be punished during the assessment. Disappointed, Albert sighed over losing a huge amount of free money, simply because the other juniors were too fearful of making a move like Felix. Sigh, if it was not hectic for us during the chaos, from the death of an elder to appease all of the companies and hotels, we would have profited a bit as well. A middle-aged man with a long nose and bushy eyebrows smiled wryly. Indeed, fortunately, Felix helped us remodel a hotel that may turn into a 6-star resort hotel that will host only the elites of the world, by using only $30 million, while the actual cost will reach $300 million or more if the prices were at market price. All the elders smiled with approval. Felix truly brought them a great win, which they desperately needed after the economic crash. After all, their businesses around the world were all affected negatively because of it. All right, I believe we have decided on Felix's achievements. I will start by voting for him to be treated as a future business seedling, and if during the assessment he showed that he has a good affinity to an element, we will make him a representative seedling. The middle-aged woman raised one finger and added with a smile, plus, reward him with an AP bracelet. He exceeded everyone's expectation, and he deserves one bracelet from the 100 we bought from the American government. This was how the Maxwell family operates. Rewards and punishments were proponents of one's achievements. Agreed. I vote the same. I agree as well. Now let's move on to the punishment for the other juniors. Albert's expression turned nasty instantly as he couldn't wait to lay down punishments for those wastrels. I believe fear is the primary reason for their inactivity, so we need to curb that fear not to make them miss one in a billion opportunities like this. He smiled wickedly, so I suggest making them face their fears as punishment. If one fears snakes, lock him in a room with tamed snakes with no teeth or poison. This will allow him to see that his fear of them can be overcome if he faced them without a retreat. To actually suggest such a messed up punishment, he was really butthurt over them missing free money. Even though it is heartless, it must be done, lest they shame us during the representative world battle. Our family cannot be disgraced. It is decided then, Felix will obtain AP bracelet as his reward, while the other juniors will be punished. Meeting adjourned. The white-haired elder tapped his knuckles on the table 2 times and stood up. The elders carried their belongings and left the floor, each heading in separate ways. The only ones who were left were the inspectors, who probably had a high rank within the family, to listen to the elders' board, making decisions. Told you so, you stupid bastard. Someday your judgmental eyes will cause you trouble you won't escape from. The woman gave a smug smile as she pointed her finger at him. She then turned around and chased after the elders, leaving the inspector man standing in front of a glass window all alone. After a while, he sighed and left the floor as well. He already realized that she was right. People change whether we like it or not, but it depends on us if we changed our views about them or kept using their previous character as criteria for judgment. I guess my time to change has come as well. He chuckled over the irony of the situation as he entered the elevator. Chapter 26, The Green Light is On. Chapter 26, The Green Light is On. Felix, who was taking a shower and humming a song joyfully, had no idea that his actions affected the timeline greatly once again. In his previous life, not a single junior in the family managed to take advantage of the chaos and earn profit from it. That's why the family did not bother meeting punishments, since all of them performed the same. But now with Felix meddling, everything had changed because now there was a junior that did something great, something that any of the other juniors could have done, but they didn't, either because they were lacking, or something stopping them from performing the same. The elders thought it was fear that affected their mental strength, not allowing them to think properly like businessmen, so they had to be punished to curb their fear, so they wouldn't miss such an opportunity again. In the elders' minds, if Felix could do it, why couldn't they do it as well? When there was a comparison, everything changes, and due to this comparison, Felix unknowingly earned a free AP bracelet and brought disaster upon his cousins at the same time. After Felix finished showering, he began studying the designs of other buildings, which were on the table. The residential area construction was on full swing now. He just needs to pick the other buildings' designs from those prototypes they handed him and gives his approval. This one is quite generic for an airport, there is nothing unique, it's just a good-looking airport, but what I want is for the tourists to feel regret leaving the airport, and this one does not deliver. He shook his head and carried on appraising the other designs. Shortly after, his eyes shone with delight after seeing a baggage carousel that was inside an artificial waterfall. The baggage enters through it from one side and leaves from the other side. He didn't know how they were going to achieve it, without affecting the integrity of tourists' possessions, but that was for them to find out. As for him, he could only give them the green light. After studying the entire design, he was pleased by it greatly, so he decided that this one was going to be used for the airport remodel. He marked approved on design and moved to the seaport. He was quite excited to open it, as Barry bragged that he owns 10 seaports around the world under his belt. What the fuck is this? There is absolutely nothing new added or removed from the old design, the only difference is the paint color. The higher the expectations, the greater the disappointment. Felix immediately lost it after seeing the only difference was a dye color from black and red, to yellow and red. Did I hire that baldy to do me a dye job? Jack, order him to be here within 10 minutes, if not he can pack up and scram. Furious, Felix instructed Jack, who was standing behind him. After all, he gave them more than 1 month to hand him the designs, as well as any materials they asked for, yet the only different thing about this design was the paint job, something even a toddler could do. All right, young master, it shall be done, Jack replied while dialing in his phone. Felix spent those 10 minutes studying the other designs. 8 minutes later. Young master, did you call for me? Barry entered the suite casually, not knowing that he was in deep shit. Come here, Barry, and look at this design you gave me. If you are going to only change the color, you should have at least told me so I can assist you in picking a color more fit for the seaport. After all, it is an extremely difficult task, and I don't want you to suffer too much, Felix replied sarcastically while showing him the seaport design. Barry started to sweat after realizing that his design did not please Felix. He rubbed his sweaty palms together and explained, Young master, it's not that I am lazy and don't want to remodel the seaport, it's just that there is actually no need to do so. The previous design was perfect without flaws. The only downside the port had was the rust on the equipment, as well as some that need either to be replaced or repaired. He rubbed his bald head, embarrassed, so I did not want to waste resources on remodeling something that was already good enough to be part of this island. It's purely a waste of resources that could be used on other buildings, so I did a paint job on it, without touching the core design. I have already scouted all the equipment that is faulty for replacement and put them in this notebook. Please take it. There is a quite few. He took a small notebook from his pocket and handed it to Felix. All right, you do make a point. No need to waste resources on it. Then transfer the budget to the hotel or the airport, they need as much as possible. Felix's fury quickly decreased after understanding his reason. Then he opened the notebook and saw tens of equipment, which were written in red, and next to them was written need replacement. What the fuck is this? Why do we have more than 20 equipment that needs replacement? Weren't they just fine a while ago, when we were using them to unload heavy containers? Young master, the machines were already faulty and needed desperate repair, but with continued use during last month they finally gave in and broke totally. The repairmen said they can't do much to them anymore, and you need new ones. He sighed helplessly. This is also why I didn't bother to make a new design, since it will be costly to just change the machines alone, don't even mention remodeling it as well. Then don't bother giving the budget to others, I will use it to replace those machines. Leave it to me. Thank you, Barry, for the hard work. You can go now. Felix excused him politely and dialed his aunt's phone number. Ring 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 cluck. Hello dear Felix, it's been such a long time since you called me, probably since the moment you received those 2 flowers. I am sad, you forgot me the moment you started playing with them, Aunt Mary answered teasingly. Auntie, I am sorry, but I was really busy with the constructions. Problems kept arising each day. I need to supervise them. Just now I received news that more than 20 seaport machines had gone offline, and I don't have enough budget to buy them, so I can only call you to trade the seaport materials with machines. He sighed. This is the only way I can do it without breaking the rules of the family tradition. I see. Well, you don't have to worry about it. I will sell you brand new ones using a premium discount of 80%, since the chaos is still ongoing and no one bothers to ask for transportation like before. I will send them in 3 days, and you can put the resources that you wish to trade in the ships. Thank you, Auntie, this is perfect. My cousins won't be able to use this against me since it is a mutual trade. All right, I have a second call, it's probably Leela. Bye, Auntie. Felix quickly hanged up the phone without waiting for her to ask about the fate of the 2 girls she sent. Sorry, Auntie, I will make it up to you with a gift later. He then called Leela and gave her the green light to start whenever they felt they were ready. It's finally time to begin the full makeover of the island. He chuckled. The Sea Pearl Island is going to prove to the world that she deserves this beautiful name. Chapter 27, 5 months later. Chapter 27, 5 months later. 5 months quickly passed by, as the world had changed completely during this period. It all started 2 months after the transmission, when the presidents and kings of each country came out of their shell and announced the boggling news about the creation of the World United Council. The council's existence was the same as the previous United Nations, but with a few twists on it. The first rule the council operates with was that every country had the right to vote, and only had 1 vote at the start, and to raise the number of votes higher, it depends on the number of representatives each country sends to fight in the upcoming planetary Supremacy Games, 1.5 years from now. This meant the more representatives a county had, the more her opinions during the council meeting would be seen with high regard. Since a country that had only 1 vote was merely a side character during the decision-making, while countries that would have 20 or more votes under their belts were going to be the true leaders of the world. The reason this voting system had been upgraded to be like this was simply because it wasn't fair for a country to send their juniors to represent them during the Supremacy Games, where they could die in their first game without being compensated properly. An extra vote for each representative was the compensation they agreed on that would fit as a reward for their efforts. This new voting system that relied on the number of representatives managed to offset frenzy within each country to start training camps designed specifically to assist their juniors into awakening successfully and training them to use their powers efficiently, so they could be part of the winners during the World Representatives Battle. The first decision they made after announcing to the public the creation of the World Council was the release of all the information they obtained about the universe for them to see, by using the AP bracelet streaming feature. They used it to stream all the knowledge throughout TV channels, the internet, videos, social media, and more. They wanted everyone to learn what the future of Earthlings looks like, and especially to make them accept the fact that a new era was upon them. The moment the news reached the public, it created a hysterical madness and excitement within each country. After all, who wouldn't be filled with fervor when he realizes that he can gain superpowers and control elements just like in a movie or a game? Who wouldn't feel the heat when he sees that he could enter a virtual reality that has 100% simulation while seeing and meeting with different types of subhumans and other races they never knew they existed before? The internet went wild with people sharing clips and parts of videos that showed old games from the Supremacy Games platform. Humans calling storms and raising tsunamis to attack each other in a brutal fashion, hundreds of people dropped on an island where only one can survive, and more games with different types that please everyone's fantasies. Holy shit, this dude turned into a sub-dragon and started breathing fire from his mouth, so cool, I want to do so as well, commented by I Have Dragon Donger. I believe we can all do the same as them. My country president today made a speech, saying that all of us have the potential to use the same strength as the other humans in our galaxy, and it all depends on the affinity of our elements. He also said that in 7 months they will open assessment centers for the public to scan their element affinity for a small fee, replied Saber 6969. True, the president of our country said the same as well. Plus, if some of us had high affinity, we can get recruited by the government to join the games and bring glory to our planet. Man, I really want to obtain an AP bracelet. So many MMORPG games there with 100% realism, I wish I can join one and live there forever, commented Lowly is Life. The comments on the internet were endless, everyone was talking about what they want and how to obtain it. People analyzing the information in detail and giving those who were lazy to look through it, important information they missed. Such as to awaken a bloodline, one must first undergo the most painful experience in the world, pain that assaults every fiber in the human body, and the only way to pass through the pain was to awaken successfully, otherwise, only death awaits them, or in the best case, emerges as a cripple. This news alone turned off the majority of the commoners' excitement, now from their eager expression to awaken as fast as possible, turned into wait and see attitude, since not everyone could handle extreme pain. Hell, just one paper scratch in a finger or hitting the smallest toe into a table, and the majority fall into the ground wailing like their lives were over. Months slowly passed by and the frenzy over the news cooled off just a bit. The citizens went back to their normal life. The chaos had ended after the big reveal, and those who sold off their assets cheaply to buy food and necessities had no tears left to cry when they realized they fucked themselves big time due to their paranoia. Now they could only sob in silence as they joined the rest in celebration over Earthlings entering a new era. An era where schools changed all the useless secondary languages to only have one, which was the common universal language, that was used by everyone in the UVR or just to speak to other subhumans in real life. This language became mandatory to learn and master, otherwise one wouldn't be able to converse properly within the UVR. An era where entertainment slowly decayed until it became non-existent. After all, who would bother to watch two normal individuals fighting each other with their hands and fists, while the Supremacy Games show you real people beating the shit out of each other using abilities and techniques? Who would bother cheer for a football team or NBA team, when you could cheer for your own planet fighting other planets for supremacy? This would slowly kill the entertainment sector until the day Planet Earth officially starts its climbing journey towards the peak of Supremacy Games. An era where casinos were completely uprooted by the gambling dens in the UVR, which were backed by the SGA and supervised by the Queen AI unbiased judgment. One could bet whatever he wanted and on whomever he wished for, and if he wins, his money transfers directly to his UVR bank account, with extreme security, as the only one who knew his bet details was the Queen. This platform, which was supported by the UVR, would slowly turn Earthlings into loyal supporters and fans, just like it did to everyone else. Its existence turned every spectator into an addict. This addiction was far worse than drugs, because in the case of drugs one knows he was being harmed and tries his best to become clean. But in the case of the Supremacy Game, there was no such thing. He could spend hours and hours each day watching people fight, play, and kill each other in deadly games, then given rewards over and over again without feeling boredom. The platform did not spend 1 million years of its existence not improving or evolving itself to fit more for the commoner's needs and wishes. The Supremacy Games was a culture that couldn't be replaced anymore. Felix was currently in the gym, running on the treadmill with sweat all over his fine-tuned body, a huge contrast to how his body shape looked like before. He did not gain a lot of weight but only tuned his muscles to be more refined and good-looking. After a while, he turned off the treadmill and went to take a shower. This was his last training on the island, as he would leave tomorrow to the family headquarters for the elemental assessment. The only thing he was worried about was the reason why the family didn't give him a call after the inspectors left to report to them his explanation. It was like they left him to continue his construction just like before, and the weirder part was that even though he showed his cards to his cousins, they didn't bother making a move or call to ask for bribes. Hell, he couldn't even use the blackmail materials he was preparing for Kenny when they tried to rip him off. Everything went silent after the inspectors left. Felix still had no idea about what happened in the headquarters, as his grandfather, who provides information to him, went absent as well. Whatever, tomorrow I will find out about everything after I meet them, but for now I need to prepare my suitcase. A new Felix was heading towards the assessment, a version that would give everyone the shock of their lives. Chapter 28, Arriving at the Headquarter. Chapter 28, Arriving at the Headquarter. The next day, 8 a.m. A jet that was sent by the family to pick up Felix was parked in the airport. Felix stood near it with Jack and Leela, who had tears on her eyes. "Guys, I am heading back to the family for the assessment. I will leave everything here for you to manage. I don't know when I will return, but when I do I will make sure to bring you gifts," Felix said with a gentle smile, as he looked at his subordinates, who pleased him with their loyalty and work efficiency. "Young master, you can leave the island to remodel in our hands. We won't disappoint you. The only thing you should focus on is how to perform the best of your abilities during the assessment." Jack thumped his chest with his fist and promised firmly. "Young master, I wish to say something I always wanted but never had the courage." Leela wiped her tears and lifted her head. She then stared in his eyes with determination and said loudly, "I like you, Felix. I always had a crush on you. I did my best to tempt and please you, to show my interest, but to no avail. Is there something you don't like about me? I can change it, just tell me." Felix was surprised a bit but not shocked, since he always knew that she had feelings for him. He just didn't want to confront them. He believed in the notion that crushing on someone was a momentarily feeling that passes over a period of time. For some people, it might take just a couple weeks before they change their crush to another, but for some, it could last for years. He never expected Leela to be from the latter kind. "Leela, there is nothing wrong with you. You are beautiful, smart, thoughtful, and tough when you need to be. You have the perfect package, so you should never change yourself, either for me or for others." He hugged her gently, not caring about having his suit dirted by her hot streaming tears, and continued to comfort her. "The reason I did not accept your feelings, even though I knew them beforehand, is simply because I see you as my friend, a loyal subordinate, and most importantly a close person to me, and I really don't want you to waste your life chasing after me, or waiting for me. I can't be that heartless to my friends." He wiped her tears from her cheek with his fingers and said sincerely, "So please, Leela, do me a favor, and yourself as well, and give up on this crush. Find a good man who will be by your side, supporting you always. You deserve it." After a while, he released her from his hug and smiled warmly. "I am going now. Give me calls to update me on the island situation, all right?" "Yes, young master, I will make sure of it. Have a nice trip." Leela sniffed as she answered with her head bowed towards Felix. Her feelings might not have gone now, but they will slowly be erased by time until only feelings of friendship remain. "Good, take care guys, I will try to call as much as possible." "Goodbye," Felix said his farewell and entered the jet. The steward closed the door after him and gave the pilot the signal to lift off. This was for the best for both parties. Felix was not open to the idea of getting into a relationship with anyone currently, because he understood one simple fact: his road ahead was tough already, and he didn't want to have another burden by his side to care of. He already had the greatest burden of them all, which was Asna. So he only planned to fulfill his desires if needed with one-night stands, nothing more, nothing less. In the skyscraper of the Maxwell family, 20th story. Felix was looking fearfully at all of his cousins who arrived earlier than him. Every one of them had a deadpan expression with a hint of despise, as they stared at Felix, who just exited from the elevator. This standoff carried on for 5 minutes already. Felix did not dare to breathe or move an inch, as 40 or so of his cousins were currently giving him murderous gazes. It was clear that they wanted to pummel him to death. His earlier ideas of pranking them went up to smoke. The only thing he wanted to do now was to stay as far as possible from those rabid dogs who were about to pounce on him. Suddenly, the elevator behind Felix opened up. He turned his head slowly, worried that he will get sandwiched by his cousins, but after seeing who emerged from the door, he sighed in relief. "You rascal, you were hiding here while I was looking for you all around the building." Felix's grandfather immediately began scolding him. "Now come here and tell me with vivid details how you managed to revive the resort hotel, which no one dared to take as a revival project," he said with a hidden glint in his eyes. "Hee, you dare hide such information from me, making me get blindsided by those fogies, who started congratulating me the moment I returned to the headquarters. It was so fucking humiliating getting congratulated while having no idea what they were talking about. Let's see now how you deal with those angry mobs, who were tortured to death because of you." Felix knew his grandfather fucked him up after seeing his cousins' expressions turn extra frosty when they heard him mention the hotel. He did not know why they were angry at him, but he guessed that they were punished by the family when he performed spectacularly during the chaos, while they were doing nothing. He just did not know what punishment turned them into this hateful form. "Cough, grandfather, you came just in time. Let's go, I will update you on the island remodel on our way." The moment Felix finished speaking, he turned around and dashed towards the stairs, not daring to use the elevator. He knew that by the time it opens up he would already be a bloody mess. Dumbfounded, his cousins and grandfather eyed him escape shamelessly, without any hint of remorse, leaving his grandfather behind. What a joke! His grandfather was the one who set this up to get his revenge. Felix might not know it, but he had a feeling that his grandfather had his hand on this. After all, he never called him before to inform him about his reward, neither the angry mobs who were waiting desperately to beat him up. Bam! Suddenly they were awakened by the loud sound of Felix's suitcase dropping to the ground. "Fuck, don't let him escape. If I don't beat him up to vent my pent-up emotions after being sealed with hundreds of cockroaches, I will never be the same again." A golden-haired beautiful young girl pointed her finger at the stairs. "Same. I was sealed in a room filled with bees. The mere sound of them made me pee my pants multiple times in the presence of my parents. Such humiliation can only be erased by breaking some of his limbs. Honestly, I don't see what you guys are mad about. I had fear of snakes, but due to my punishment, I managed to overcome it, and even made a friend. Say hi, Charlie." A young man with spiky short dark hair said while having a white snake coiled around his arm, eyeing everyone coldly and making hissing sounds. The moment everyone heard him say this, they all roared, "Shut the fuck up, Kenny. We all know your fear of snakes was a lie. The only reason no one bothered to punish you for it, is because no one actually knows what you really fear. So fuck off to the corner and let us handle our business, or we will beat you up first as a warm-up." A delicate beauty threatened Kenny viciously. God knows what she had gone through for her to be this thuggish. Kenny's gentle smile froze on his face after seeing their murderous gazes. He backed away while saying, "You guys, don't mind me, I was just speaking out of my ass. Go chase after Felix, he probably already escaped." "Humph, that's better. Everyone split up and search the entire headquarters. He won't leave the building, and even if he did we won't allow him to re-enter without getting beaten up. Move out." The golden-haired girl waved her hand forward. Everyone chose a floor and went to search for him. Some took the elevator, and some took the stairs. What's important was that Felix was going to get pummeled today no matter what. Chapter 29 to 1 vs 38. Chapter 29, 1 vs 38. Felix escaped towards the roof of the building without dropping a sweat. It seemed that climbing the hotel stairs was quite handy. However, even though his stamina points get depleted slowly, he still wouldn't be able to survive running for 3 days straight, as the assessment was planned to be held 3 days later. The only ones who could get him out of this mess were the elders and seniors of the family. However, they wouldn't bother doing so. Hell, they might even be watching the scene unfolds with amusement. They would not interfere unless he was in danger of getting crippled or killed. Besides, so anything was allowed. This meant that the only option Felix had was to play hide and seek with them, so they could split their manpower to cover bigger areas. If they did so, he was confident in his combat prowess to beat at least 5 of them single-handedly. I still need to eat, shit, and sleep during those 3 days. His eyebrows frowned over this issue that made his survival even tougher. He understood that his cousins were not fools to not see this problem as well. This signified that they would leave some forces to defend those important checkpoints, especially the kitchens and cafeterias, as they didn't have enough to defend all the toilets in the building. I need an insider to report me about their positions. He thought about Olivia's deadpan expression as she looked at him before and shook his head. Forget it, no matter how sweet she is, at this moment she also wants to beat me up. I can't trust her with my position. So the only thing he could do was to head straight for the cafeteria, which was on the 40th floor, and steal some food to sustain him those 3 days before his cousins defend it. He started increasing his climbing speed, passing floor after floor, until he reached the 40th story. The moment he opened the door he was ambushed from 3 sides with punches and legs. Felix calmly dodged the ones heading towards his head and balls and left the others to strike him. He never let his guard down, as he always assumed that his cousins might use the elevators to reach those important checkpoints to block him from getting food. After defending their attacks successfully, he tried to break out from their encirclement by aiming at the female cousin who used her army boots to aim at his balls before. He put his arms in a guard position and dashed towards her. She tried to defend herself by kicking him again in his nether region, however, this time Felix was prepared. He sidestepped her attack easily. He then caught her extended leg and used his strength that took months to build, to throw her at the other 2 cousins who were left behind him. She could only scream hatefully as she collided with the other 2. Arab. Arg. Painful groans escaped out of their lips, as one got smacked in the face with her heavy army boots, breaking his nose, while the other had his jewels shattered as the female head went straight for them. Some may wonder if she had enmity with men's peaches. Stop whining already, you are disgracing your parents, who are probably watching. He walked slowly towards them and took their phones and said, I will give them back to you after this is over, bye-bye. He then headed towards the cafeteria after making a peace sign at the security camera. On the top floor of the headquarters, tens of seniors and elders were watching big TV screens, showcasing their juniors searching all over the building, and Felix beating 3 juniors effortlessly. Haha, Abraham, your grandson is probably not going to have kids anymore with how he is wailing and screaming. What an embarrassment, thank God he is not my grandson, or else I won't dare show my face to others. The baldy Albert laughed mockingly while pointing at the cousin, who was curled up like a snail with his hands on his nether region. Abraham, the white-haired elder on the board, did not dare to retort. Whatever he said would be nullified by his grandson loud wailing like a pig getting slaughtered. The only thing he did was lower his head in shame while hearing the jeers and teases of those around him. I will fucking break his 2 other legs, as well as his father's 3rd leg, for giving me such a disgrace. We all know it is painful to have your balls smashed, but why the f***ck are you crying and wailing as someone cut them off? If you can't even handle this kind of pain, you won't even awaken, you little dipshit, he thought to himself. On the other hand, little Felix is truly blooming right now. I really want to know what he experienced on the island to change him into this young confident lad. To be able to defend against 3 people ambushing him, and even counter-attacking successfully, his reflexes must have been honed greatly. Pleased, an elegant middle-aged woman nodded while staring at Felix, who was putting food in his backpack like a wild animal. Her eyelids twitched after switching her vision to her daughter, who was touching her face as she looked at her reflection on a small mirror. She was probably fearing her makeup getting ruined. How could the difference be this big? If she keeps acting like this, she won't survive the training camp we prepared for them. She smiled bitterly. Do you guys honestly think my little Felix will get beaten up by your wastrel children? Robert scoffed and carried on, not caring about the piercing eyes he was receiving. Well, think again. Felix spent 1.5 years in that island doing nothing but practicing the finest martial arts, all in preparation so he can defend himself from the bullying of your kids. You should feel ashamed of yourselves, letting them always gang up on him and not fight him 1v1 like gentlemen. Even now he is still getting ganged up by 38 juniors just so you can see if he truly deserves the AP bracelet, but now he will prove to you that he deserves it more than anyone. Robert twisted old facts without a change of expression, turning Felix into the victim while the cousins who lived hell during their young age at his hands, turned into the abusers. The parents of those juniors were having none of it. One of them said, "Old donkey, there is a limit to how much bullshit we can take from you. You said our children ganged up on him to bully him, but if he did not traumatize them in the first place by his vicious pranks, they wouldn't even touch him." Another parent intervened and added her own piece. "What did you meant by telling us that we are holding a test to see if he deserves a bracelet?" She sneered. "If we did not agree he would not have been about to touch one in his life, and since we agreed, there is no reason to test him. The only reason they are targeting him is because of their hate. What has that got to do with us? We were preparing to hold a 1v1 battles to see if they have a solid combat power or not. In the end, it turned into this fiesta we are watching now, so stop trying to make him a victim. You are not getting any more rewards for him no matter what you say." Robert clicked his tongue and ignored them after his plan to help Felix earn some extra brownies failed. So he just jeered his grandson, who was beating two more juniors he found waiting for him in the bathroom. "Beat them up? That's it, Felix, break their legs for this daddy." The elders face-palmed as they eyed the legendary Robert Maxwell, cheering like a little girl for his grandson to beat their children in order to vent his irritation. 2 days later, Felix was in the headquarter kitchen wearing a pajama and making his breakfast while humming a song comfortably. During those 2 days that passed, he managed to beat up more than 36 juniors of the family senseless, leaving the others scared to approach him anymore. The elders just watched stiffly the last 2 cousins, who they were putting their hopes on to salvage the situation, hiding in the toilet from Felix. At this point they just wanted this hell to end and for the elders to fast forward the assessment. They had enough of this constant pressure that Felix could find them and beat them as well. They had no more thoughts of having revenge, they just wanted to live peacefully. The family upper echelon finally had enough of this embarrassment and decided to stop this fiesta. They had been insulted enough by Robert and Albert, who made a terrifying combination. Just yesterday an elder vomited blood from anger as he was scorned by them when his grandson cried for his mom as he was escaping from Felix. Those duo rogues left no one safe. Everyone fell to their brutal insults without a way to retort, since their children truly performed disgracefully when compared to Felix. Comparison was truly a B*TCH. Enough. We had seen enough to make a judgment. Felix is top-tier seedling who will be heavily invested in if he had a good affinity to the elements, while others will get punished due to this trashy performance. To actually lose 1 vs 38, I can already hear the world laughing at our family if we sent them like this to represent us. Abraham sighed in disappointment and ordered the servant next to him, "Make the announcement, tell them to group on the 35th floor. That's where we will assess their element affinity. I hope it won't be as bad as their combat experience. F***ck, we really taught them combat in their younger age for nothing, such a waste of time and effort," he cursed under his breath. Chapter 30, The Elemental Assessment. Chapter 30, The Elemental Assessment. Everyone is required to be at 35th floor in 15 minutes. Anyone who is late can forget about being assessed. A loud announcement kept repeating in each floor for the juniors, who were currently either nursing their injuries, hiding in the toilet, or passed out on the ground. The moment the announcement finished reporting, they all rushed towards the 35th floor. Those who were passed out got lifted by others on their back to deliver them. They might be competitive with each other, but they were still a family. Meanwhile, Felix heard the announcement while he was eating his breakfast and scrolling his social media. "I see they decided to fast forward it by a day. Well, I am not complaining. I played enough with those brats. It's time to get serious." 14 minutes later, Felix arrived on the 35th floor still wearing his pajama. He surveilled the floor with piercing eyes, and every time it landed on a junior they avoided like a plague by lowering their heads in shame. The elders shook their heads slightly at the sight and ignored it. "All right, since everyone is here, we will first start by giving your rewards and punishments before we begin assessing your affinity," Abraham said sternly. "First off, the punishment, Every junior who participated during Felix hunt and failed miserably, will be punished by having 1 month increased during our next training camp. Every junior lowered their heads even further in shame after being humiliated like this in front of their parents. The only ones who acted the same were Kenny and Noah, as they didn't participate in the hunt. As for the reward, only Felix obtained one. He then dropped a bombshell on every junior, especially Felix, who froze instantly after hearing his reward. He will be rewarded with the famous AP bracelet. He rightfully earned it after he bought all the materials necessary to turn a dead island into a platform that will host only the elites of the world, using only the $30 million budget we gave him. Please give him a round of applause over this magnificent achievement. He began applauding first with admiration, and soon everyone followed. The seniors and elders were truly clapping sincerely, while the juniors clapped half-heartedly. It seems like I exceed the requirement to obtain rare ranked beast. Felix could only smile wryly and accept their applause. After a while, it gradually stopped. Felix Maxwell, grandson of Robert Maxwell, come receive your reward. Abraham took a small black box from a servant next to him, and opened it slowly, revealing a milky white bracelet that kept reflecting the sunlight that was coming from the window. Felix's eyes immediately brightened up, as he saw the device that would allow him to make use of his previous life memories efficiently. He moved forward with quick steps until he reached in front of the elder. He bowed his head respectfully due to family courtesies and grabbed the small black box. He then took out the bracelet and wore it around his wrist under the envious eyes of his family members, ranging from seniors to juniors. Not everyone was allowed to get a bracelet, even though the family had hundreds of them. The only way to obtain one was by making a noteworthy contribution to the family. Only the elders had one, simply because their position was in itself a show of contribution towards the whole family. Just like Felix's grandfather, who single-handedly expanded the family to a business empire, such merit could never be judged by rewards. All right, the punishments and rewards had been given. It is time to assess your elemental affinity. Elder Abraham didn't waste time and ordered them sternly, make 4 lines, each having 10 of you quickly. After a while, everyone got in their position. 4 elders stood in front of each line and activated their scanning feature in their bracelet and instructed, come one by one slowly. The first juniors on the line moved forward and put their hands on the scanning blue light that was emitting from the bracelet. The Queen AI informed them monotonously about the results of her scan. Race, human, gender, male, element affinity, wind, affinity rating, 9%. Race, human, gender, male, element affinity, wood, affinity rating, 25%. Race, human, gender, female, element affinity, shadow, affinity rating, 39%. Race, human, gender, male, element affinity, space, affinity rating, 78%. The moment the last scanning result was heard, everyone froze with shock, then to disbelief, until finally pity. The male junior who saw his elemental affinity did not yell with joy, claiming he was 1 in 1,000 years prodigy. No, the only thing he did was stand there dumbfounded with hot tears gushing from his eyes over the cruel reality that his life as a representative seedling was over before it began. Felix shook his head piteously at this sight. Fate is truly vicious, to give him such high affinity rating over a rare grade element that has all the beasts that use it either extinct or hiding in the cracks of space. Anyone who had a rare grade element in the human race wasn't getting treated like a genius but useless trash, since the entire bloodline integration system was depending on beasts. In other words, if there was not a beast alive that uses your element, it meant the same as not having an element in the first place. That's why rare elements such as death, life, destruction, creation, and more of such types were treated with negativity by every human. This was not a fantasy novel where the rarer the element one had the more favored he would be. It's the exact opposite, as the more common his element the better it was for him, due to having a wide range of beasts and paths to choose from. What's truly important was the rank of a beast, as the higher it is, the stronger and more unique the abilities one would be able unlocks. Soon after, the parents of the poor lad took him away. Continue the assessment, keep moving forward. One by one, juniors were scanned. Different elements were appearing here and there, but the majority of their affinity rating was still below 50%. No one had managed to pass that threshold yet. Shortly after, Noah, Kenny, and Olivia's turn had arrived. Race, human; gender, male; element affinity, darkness, lightning; affinity rating, 51%, 7% respectively. Race, human; gender, female; element affinity, plant; affinity rating, 65%. Race, human; gender, male; element affinity, ice; affinity rating, 70%. The moment those elements as well as their good rating appeared, the elders celebrated, their hands raised in the air. They almost lost hope after seeing only below average ratings continuously. Good, good, finally some good seedlings worth having. Elder Abraham laughed joyfully. His happiness was understandable, as those three had surpassed the average affinity threshold, especially Noah with his whopping 70%. High affinity was what truly decides whether one had a bright future or not. Still the same as before, nothing to be surprised about, I guess. Felix lifted his head and saw that he was next in line, so he moved forward and put his hand in the light without the elder telling him to do so. Queen faithfully announced his scan results. Race, human; gender, male; element affinity, poison; illusion; affinity rating, 59%, 12% respectively. The elders, who were still celebrating the birth of three potential representatives, celebrated even louder after seeing that their top-tier seedling had such high rating for an uncommon element as for the rare element of illusion. It was totally ignored. Haha, this is truly a blissful day. To actually have 4 gifted juniors out of 40 is really worth celebrating for. True, our family is really performing better than other families. Just yesterday I found out that the Valian family in Alabama State only had 1 junior with good affinity. For us to have 4, we are truly in luck, the middle-aged lady from the elders board added. Charlotte, you are still behaving like your younger self, spying and seeking information, without anyone asking you to do so, Abraham teased her. What do you know? If I don't obtain intel on our future rivals who will contest with us over the slots of the national team, who will? You. Cough, never mind what I said. Now the elemental assessment has finished, you can go back to your rooms. We will call you tomorrow at the same time to give you a beast bloodline that fits your elemental affinity to awaken with. Good night. Abraham excused them with a wave of hand after finishing the assessment. Good night, elders and seniors. All juniors bowed their heads slightly and went to their rooms. Tonight I will enter the UVR, it's been really such a long time since I visited. Felix thought eagerly while heading towards his room. Chapter 31, Entering the UVR. Chapter 31, Entering the UVR. Felix headed towards his room while ignoring the fearful and envy looks of his cousins. He took the first elevator all by himself, while the other 2 elevators were used by the rest. He clicked at the 20th floor button and stood silently. 30 seconds later the elevator stopped and Felix stepped outside, heading towards his room that was at the end of the floor. He opened it using his keycard and entered, slamming the door shut behind him. Finally, my plans will truly begin. Getting an AP bracelet this early is heaven sent. I don't need to use the family bloodline beast anymore or even rely on their resources. I can obtain everything I need from the UVR. Elated, he looked at the bracelet in his wrist and went to take a quick shower. He started to smell as didn't take one for over 2 days now. 10 minutes later. Let's begin. Felix lifted his wrist that has the bracelet on, and put it in front of his eyes and called under his breath, Queen AI. Suddenly his eyes closed shut and lay on the bed unmoving. 10 seconds later, a voice was heard in his head. Welcome Sir Felix to the UVR, your AP bracelet has been successfully bounded with your consciousness. From now on, only you can use the features of your device. Do you mind me explaining them in detail? No need, I want you to teleport me to Alexander's capital city, Felix replied with familiarity. This will cost you 1000 supremacy coins in normal conditions, but since this is your first time, it is free. The next time you will have to pay the ticket price. Queen AI responded. Noted, teleport me now. You will be sent to the Alexander capital city Androxa in 3 seconds, have a nice journey. 3 seconds later, Felix started to disintegrate. His body slowly turned into light particles, until nothing was left of him. Deafening silence engulfed the White Room after his departure. In a humongous city that spans into infinity, borders so far between each other, they can't be seen using normal human eyes. In the center of the city, a building bigger than any other famous structures on planet Earth was standing proudly with its unique spherical design. At the peak of the building a large signboard was planted arrogantly above all, that said SGA Teleportation Company. At the bottom floor of this company, multiple circles were continuously flashing, as new people emerged from them and left hurriedly in a rush. Felix's body started to reconstruct inside the white circle. 1 second later his body became complete again. The moment the process was over, Felix opened his eyes and hurriedly exited the white circle. After doing so, he sighed in relief. Not this time, you capitalist bastards. You cheated me out of my money in my previous life, since I had no idea how the teleportation works, but not this time. This daddy got scammed multiple times in the UVR, but now with my memories, no one will bully my naivete again. He smirked as he left the entrance of the company. Fuck, I was slow by 1 second and got 200 SC deducted from my credit account, said a blue-skinned human while crying in agony. Brother, that's nothing. I heard from my cousin that he saw a kid staying in the teleportation circle for over 30 seconds, staring at it in awe. The poor kid ended up having 6000 SC debt. A human with a long alligator-scaled tail replied with sympathy. The others, who were listening to their conversion, sighed in pity over the fate of those newcomers, who get cheated of their money due to lack of information. The teleportation company took advantage of this and made a rule that each second a person stayed in the teleportation device, will have 200 SC deducted. Since people get teleported each second constantly, and when a person stands in the circle for an extended duration, they start blocking the path of those teleporting after them, thus stopping the company from making a profit. This was the official reason and excuse the company used. However, everyone knows that their reason was complete bullshit. After all, they are in a goddamn virtual reality. People can literally teleport in every empty spot there is. Hell, people can even teleport from the toilet chair circle, but would the SGA allow that? Absolutely not. Why would they waste an opportunity to make free money from the commoners, without breaking a sweat or effort? They just drew a couple of circles in the ground and named them teleportation devices, and anyone who wants to use them must pay for a ticket to go to his destination. The further the destination, the more outrageous the ticket price is. This is one of the main factors why, even though the UVR was created as an open space for everyone to travel freely unhindered, turned into a universe with different territories, and to go where you want to, you must pay for it. This devious plan that turns something free into gold mine was introduced by the human race the moment they joined the SGA, thus earning them a good spot within the alliance. Felix was currently wandering around the city without destination, observing the different types of humans that keep passing by him. Some had different color skin such as green, purple, and even pink, while some had extra body parts, ranging from having an extra eye in the middle of their forehead to having 6 arms. Those mutations are either byproducts during the process of awakening or replacement, or they appeared during birth, due to having a low percentage of origin realm ancestor bloodline. But still, the majority of people had no mutation like Felix. This condition meant only 2 things: either they are commoners who did not awaken, or bloodliners who had no mutation during the process of either awakening or replacement. After traveling around the city for 1 hour, Felix finally settled his nostalgia, as he did not visit the city for a long time. Alright, time to start implementing the plan. He changed directions and trod forward with familiarity. First, he needed to head towards the bank to obtain his rightful starting pack loan, then use it to bet on the games that he still remembers from his previous life. They were not that many, as he doesn't remember much from this period, since he did not get an AP bracelet this early. He used to watch old games that were being streamed freely on TV and the internet like a peasant at this period. 15 minutes later, he reached another towering building that was half the size of the SGA teleportation company. But, the difference between them was that this structure was shaped like a cube and shone with silver light. In the middle of the building, a signboard that said SGA Bank was hanged on it, shimmering with silver light as well. Felix queued like everyone else in front of the entrance and waited patiently for his turn. 30 minutes later, he entered the building and went straight towards the receptionist. "Good afternoon, I want to open a bank account, as well as receive my rightful first-time loan," he said politely. A beautiful lady that had two small cute horns on the sides of her forehead replied with a smile. "Good afternoon sir, can you provide me with your UVR ID? I need your private information to fill your bank account details." "With pleasure." Felix extended his wrist and put it on a small scanner that was at his right side. A few moments later. "All right, I got what I need. Please head towards the second floor to obtain your bank account details, as well as your loan. Have a nice day." The receptionist sent him off with a polite smile. Felix thanked her and headed towards the elevator. The moment he reached it, he noticed that there was a line for it as well, so he changed his direction and went for the stairs. After a while, he stepped inside the second floor and went to obtain his loan. Sadly, he had to wait for his turn again, as there was a queue for it as well. His forehead veins started to pop out from anger, but he held it in and lined up without raising a fart. Fucking capitalists. He could only curse in his mind, not daring to insult out loud the most authoritative bank in the UVR. However, his rage was quite understandable, as there were more than 60 floors in this building, yet they force all the people who want to open a bank account for free to use only the second and third floor, leaving the other floors for those who want to speed up the process using coins. They really use every method to earn profit, just like in real life. Nothing changed much even if this is the UVR. Money always does the talking. Chapter 32, The Bloodline Market. Chapter 32, The Bloodline Market. Felix queued obediently just like the others. No matter how angry he was about their management, he still needs to play their game if he wants to obtain the loan. 20 minutes later. His turn had arrived. This time he did not greet anyone and just straight away put his wrist in the scanning device. The employee was pleased about this as well, as he preferred customers like those who do not waste his time with meaningless questions and conversations. "I see that you applied for your first loan." He read the scanned details in his screen and continued, "Based on the SGA rules, every member of a newly joined planet can apply for a 100,000 SC loan with 3% interest increase monthly." He informed, "The next loans will need an explanation and the purpose of use. As for the interest, it will be 6% monthly. Is everything understood, Mr. Felix?" "Yes." "Good, 100,000 SC has been added to your bank account. You can use it to buy anything within the UVR. I wish you have a nice day." "Next in line please." The employee excused him. Felix nodded his head and left the floor. After a while, he exited the bank and called for a hover cab using his bracelet, heading to the gambling den to place his bet. He was sitting on a couch, drinking coffee while watching tens of holograms, each displaying live a different game from a different rank and tier. "The game I remember still has not started. I guess it will be on tomorrow Saturday since it is a battle royale type." He figured so, as those games extremely popular within the spectators. Due to their brutal and simple condition, to win them one only needs to emerge as the last survivor within hundreds or thousands of players to clutch the championship. As for others, only death awaits them. Such a brutal game mode is what delights the commoners' boring lives? Well, no biggie, I will place my bet on the winner now and come watch tomorrow. He tapped on his bracelet, and a large hologram appeared in front of him, that no one else can see. He entered the Gambling Den official website and clicked on the games happening tomorrow. Immediately, he was transferred to another tab that had a long list of games. Queen, Please find me a 500 player battle royal from this list. Without wasting any effort, the Queen quickly highlighted 3 games based on his requirement. He pressed on the one at the bottom and details of the game displayed in another side hologram. / game format, free for all. Game name, 500 Battle Royal. Players number, 500. Integration allowed, from Origin Purity to Peak Stage 2 of Replacement. Ranks allowed, Silver and Gold. Player list, please click on it for extended details, // He clicked on it and typed solid wall in the search bar. He had no plans to waste time scrolling 500 names for him. Immediately after doing so, solid wall profile was displayed in front of him, with a large button underneath it that said bet on this player.